race day at the Brickyard, the Indianapolis Super Speedway. This is the day when Formula One gives Indy cars and NASCAR the elbow.
Side by side, Sullivan has the lead. Danny Sullivan moves to Kentucky. And just at that moment, losing control of the car, doing a magnificent job of not hitting the wall and continuing in the race. It's unbelievable.
Last year, a fired-up Mika Hakkinen took the spoils. The final win of an exceptional career. Michael Schumacher triumphed in 2000 as Indy opened the gates to Formula One. Now he's set another record, the only man to be on pole 3 times in a row in the USA.
As he drives for the line, Michael Schumacher, and Indianapolis gets pole position. Super lap from Michael Schumacher.
Welcome to Trackside. We have a lovely Indiana day, 25 degrees and rising. Biggest crowd of the season here, around 170,000, most of them supporting Montoya and the Ferraris. But not everything is rosy. We talked to Bernie Eccleston about the sports problems very shortly. Mark and Tony are with me now. Tony, the 2 Ferraris up front and saying they will race each other. Do you believe them?
I think so this time, yeah. Schumacher's saying we're free to race, the gloves are off. He said because if he wins, that'll automatically help Rubens secure second place in the championship. So let's hope they're going to go for it. David
Coulthard pipped Montoya by something like a thousandth of a second in qualifying. He's well placed. McLaren won here last year with Hakkinen.
DC's been very strong all weekend long. The big thing for him in the race is going to be his tyres, whether the Michelin tyre is going to hold up. As we know, McLaren traditionally run a full tank of fuel. I think it could be an interesting race.
Well, the race starts at 7 o'clock, and here is the grid for you. The 2 Ferraris up front, 5th 1-2 this year. Best of the season for Coulthard, Montoya and Ralf Schumacher, both pretty upset. Villeneuve's best of the year in the BAR. Irvine's Jaguar and Button's Renault, both losing grip as the temperature rose in qualifying. The Arrows missing again. 20 go in the penultimate race of F1 2002. Don't take anything for granted. That's the message from the favourites.
Last year we have seen a lot of cars had problems with their tyres, so you need to keep your tyres together. That means if you go too fast in the beginning, maybe you struggle really in the end of your stint. So the race is far away from being decided. Although the back gap is now big and people tend to believe this, I'm always a bit reluctant to believe so.
It's very difficult to get the balance working for the car. One sector was good, the other wasn't. Yellow flag sometimes, so it was kind of difficult. That's why I'm happy. But I have a base from today, so tomorrow should be only better.
Best qualifying we've had for quite a while, so it gives us a good opportunity for the race, and pleasantly surprised because it obviously is quite a fast front section, a lot of 100% throttle, and it shows that we're going the right direction.
We got used to seeing you with a very happy, smiley face at the end of qualifying. Where's it gone?
It's just really frustrating that the way I lost 3rd place at the end, because my starts lately haven't been that good. And now I'm in the dirt side of the track. That's not very helpful.
And now that Bernie Eccleston interview, the most powerful man in the sport, realises that changes have to be made. Formula One seems to have lost something of its glitter, and the sport needs to take a very close look at itself.
We need to get our act sharpened. We haven't got a very good act at the moment. And it's nobody's fault. You can't blame Ferrari for winning. That's what they've all got the same regulations. That's what they're there for. So what we're not, because there's not much we can do, but I know Ron Dennis and Frank Williams and Flavio from Brenda, and Eddie Jordan, they're all kicking their people to get their act together, because there's no reason why they shouldn't be much, much, much better than they are. No reason at all.
Do you think we're in for the same show next season then?
No, I don't think it will be. I think you'll see those teams much, much, much more competitive. I'm not going to say that Michael won't win another world championship, because I think he will. But I don't think he'll win it that easy.
So who do you think is going to challenge Michael Schumacher?
Young Kimi with McLaren is doing a good job, obviously Montoya, Ralf Schumacher, and I'd like to see Jacques Villeneuve in a competitive car. I'd like to see him sitting beside Michael. I think you'd get some good racing out of him as well.
Bernie, how concerned are you by the fact that Spa, one of the most challenging racetracks around, was made to look a cakewalk this time?
Yeah. I mean, the trouble is the technicians have got in front of the drivers. I mean, really and truly, it's silly. It's not sort of decrying what Michael does and the other drivers do, but certainly their life is a lot easier than it should be. I mean, I watched from the onboard camera at Michael, and he was sitting there like he'd just gone to the shops. No problem at all, you know.
OK, then how can you make the sport more competitive?
If I could, one tyre formula, cut out electronics, reduce the aerodynamic effect with the cars. That would be a big step forward.
Bernie, these days qualifying, nothing happens for the first 20 minutes beyond the odd Minardi coming up, and then there's a charge at the end. How can you spice up the qualifying hour?
We've got a little bit of a problem because people are, what they're saying, I would like to see on Friday, the qualifying timed on Friday, and that we're going to have this 1 hour session split into two 30-minute sessions with, say, 8 or 10 laps in each session. And you aggregate the time of the two sessions, two fastest laps, obviously. And you carry that time on Friday through and do the same thing on Saturday, and obviously at the end you aggregate the 4. So you'd have probably 20 laps of qualifying in both hours, 1 hour sessions.
Do you think there's too much testing during the season, and there's a case for saying test when you like in the winter, but in the season you just come to the circuit on the Friday and start from there?
Never happen. On Friday, whatever time, if they have 8 hours of testing, they won't test. They'll set their car up for the race or qualifying. But no, we're certainly really looking into that whole business about testing and trying to restrict it. I mean, the biggest problem is when they test on Grand Prix circuits. Because if one goes, they all have to go in case it's raining particularly that day, and they haven't got their cars set up if they didn't go and it rains in the race or rains for qualifying. So they all go. And there's teams actually have got test teams, and these guys like to go and test, and it's like playing with a model railway, and they leave their wife and the kids at home and have good wine, and so they like to contest as much as possible. But they certainly they spend an awful lot of money, so they need to cut back.
The television spectacle, how concerned are you about that, and what are you going to do to improve it?
Well, I hope the teams are going to improve it. I really do. But I think perhaps the TV companies are guilty. I mean, you only produce ITV, one race a year, and you do a good job. But there's a lot of countries where the hosts produce and don't do a very good job. So there's no good hanging on if Michael sort of jumps off at the start and disappears. There's no good following him. You need to be with him when he stops, if he's going to stop, or catch him in a pit stop in case he takes too long. And there's so much super racing that's going on down the field. We can produce the television for worldwide, and we have one director, and so you'll get some consistency.
What would that bring, for instance, to ITV next season?
Oh, a lot more camera shots, a lot more better graphics, a lot more onboard cameras, a lot more of everything, and possibly be able to do interviews during the race and qualifying. A much different show.
And you're still chipper as ever, fighting your corner and bullying people and thrashing people into shape, aren't you?
I can't afford to stop.
Good stuff. It's going to keep going. I'm delighted that we can offer you that improved coverage of the United States Grand Prix right here this evening. But Mark, have the drivers got it too easy these days?
I think the cars are very easy to drive. I mean, it's easy for me to say now, isn't it? I'm sitting here, but they do look quite easy to drive. There's a lot of technology in those cars. And I think that needs to be taken away. We need that human element, as Bernie says, and we need to go back maybe 10 years in some respects, and maybe we'll save a little bit of budget and roll out the old cars at the museums.
He's not a dictator, though. How hard is it for those changes to be brought about?
Very difficult, because it has to be unanimous amongst the teams for any changes. Max Mosley could do it on safety issues, but talking to some of the engineers and technical directors, they're suggesting it should be a working committee. Top engineer, driver, as Mark suggested, someone from television, someone from sponsorship, to help drive them through. And it's exactly what we talked about, the aero, the gizmos, they've got to come off.
He agrees with us, basically.
He agrees with us.
Okay. Let's go to Ted Kravitz now. He has news of a rare sighting, a woman at the wheel of an F1 car.
Well, there's one question we get asked more than any other on the ITV F1 website, and it's about women F1 drivers. This one's from Philip Hart in Manchester. He asks, will there come a time when there will be a female Formula One driver? Well, Philip, if a girl has the physical fitness and what it takes up here, there's no reason why she shouldn't be in F1. Of course, we have had women F1 drivers in the past, and there's just a chance there'll be another one sooner than you might think. Her name's Sarah Fisher, and she tested the McLaren Mercedes around the Indianapolis F1 track. Sarah's a front runner in the Indy Racing Series, but they only compete on ovals, so going round a road circuit was quite a change. Racers are racers, no matter whether they're boy or girl, and Sarah has an eye on a move to F1.
There are a couple women out there racing, but you have to have the right talent and the right abilities and the right mental phase to make it happen, because it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of passion, this racing does. And so you just have to find the right person.
Fancy having a go?
If the right opportunity came around, absolutely.
Sauber have dropped Felipe Massa for this event following a censure that he picked up at the last race in Italy. The penalty would have bumped him 10 places down the grid for today's race, so to get round it, the team brought in their driver for next year, Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Pretty pleased with the results here for Sauber, 10 and 11 so far. Both cars very close together. I think we achieved the maximum today.
Minardi are close to announcing that they'll be using Ford power next year. Current supplier Asiatech is on the way out, and the strong Ford Cosworth engine should help elevate the small Anglo-Italian team well into F1's midfield. And finally, a good race strategy can elevate you from the midfield to the podium here at Indianapolis. Jock Clear is working out Villeneuve's race strategy on this computer right now. Jock, one stop or two?
Well, obviously I'm not going to tell you that. That's top secret at the moment. But we're just looking at all the information. Do we do 2 stops? Need to be really aggressive. Need to be overtaking people. The risk is you come out of your first stop behind the one-stoppers, and that's it. Good night, London. You're not going to be able to get past them, and you've blown your advantage. If you think you're aggressive, you think you're good on the brakes, then you can overtake them, then that's the way to go. But we will see after the race.
Plenty of support around here for Jack Villeneuve, former Indy 500 winner. Louise Goodman would fancy her chances driving an F1 car. She has found a pop icon. It's Johnny Rotten.
Yeah, John's come to spread a bit of anarchy in the Formula One paddock. Now, you're a bit of a new convert to this sport, aren't you?
I've been following it for about a year and a half. And met Eddie recently, and well, I find it irresistible. It's just great.
What's irresistible about it? Just the whole thing?
Noise, torture, unbelievable technology and chaos in a very organised way. A bit like myself.
Now you've been
finely tuned machine.
You've been hanging out with the Jordan team this weekend. Yeah. EJ likes to think he's a bit of a rocker. He's been getting a few tips from you?
Nah, he's crap. I'm the real deal.
Thank you very much. I think we'll leave it there.
Bit of a harsh assessment of Eddie Jordan's drum-playing abilities there, but the main man around here, it's not Johnny Rotten, it's not Eddie Jordan, it's Michael Schumacher, always the central figure. 3 world titles at Ferrari, 2 at Benetton in the mid-90s, and here's a unique chance to compare his machinery.
Welcome to the Donington Park racetrack, where I have the chance of a lifetime to drive 2 Formula One cars that span a decade. Better than that even, they have a very strong link to our new 5-time world champion, Michael Schumacher. The Benetton B191, in which he scored his first ever world championship points, and the Ferrari F1 2000, with 9 victories and 108 world championship points, he took the 2000 Formula One world championship. Let's take a look at them from the outside before we drive them. The first thing you notice at the front, the Benetton, a lower nose, much more slabby and less fine detail in the aerodynamics. Compared with the Ferrari, a higher nose, a fancy front wing and barge boards, and a lot more detail. Moving back from the driver's seat, they're completely different. The Ferrari with a 7-speed, semi-automatic gearbox, fly-by-wire throttle. Take a look at the steering wheel on this car. So many buttons that control the gearbox and all the other electronic functions on the car, rev counters, gear shift lights. Compare that with the Benetton, which is simply a steering wheel with a button to talk to the pits on the radio. Also on the Benetton then, you would have a manual 6-speed gearbox and a normal throttle cable. Moving back to the engine, the power unit that drove Michael Schumacher to that championship, a 3-litre V10 revving to 17,500 RPM, well over 850 horsepower. Isn't it neat and tidy and well laid out? Compare that to the Benetton, a V8 3.5 litre revving to just 13,000 RPM, and although it's a much older car, it's quite cluttered, isn't it? And there's a lot more detail hanging around the engine. Now let's get the cars dressed and take them out on the racetrack to see what this all means behind the wheel.
Okay, let's see what this Benetton B191 is like now. It's like stepping into an old shoe for me. I raced this car in '92, I tested it a lot, and I always remember it was like looking out of a bathtub, and that certainly hasn't changed. Let's get some temperature in the brakes and the rear tyres. Tremendous grip at high speed. Before you turn into this blind McLean's corner, it's easy on the exit. It's the toughest. As I turn in, the back of the car wants to just keep sliding on me. Whoa! Onto. Yes, that's much better under braking. Red gate, here we go. Nice apex. This car's very heavy on the steering wheel. You have to think about the gear changes before the corners. Over the crash 10. You always have to think about the time it takes to get down the gearbox. It's such a big part of going into the corner. Pick a braking point and into that chicane. That was good. Well, it's like meeting up with an old friend after a decade or so. But what I really want to do is drive that Ferrari. This would happen, and yes, we're on the racetrack in a Ferrari. Incredible. Get some warmth in those brakes and tyres and see what she goes like. Through the crater curve, I can see so well. It's glued to the racetrack. Exactly what I was expecting. With this car, I feel like I'm part of the car. It's so predictable.
The Benetton was a real challenge to drive, especially with a manual gearbox, and sometimes it felt like a bathtub with a loose wheel. On the other hand, the Ferrari was a supreme thoroughbred. Gave me tremendous confidence right from the start, and I really wanted to just push the throttle harder. Going down to Redgate, you could really stay on the gas all the way into the corner. The car absolutely felt like it was an extension of me. I was much more part of it than when I was in the Benetton. The car almost sort of followed my thought process. I more or less didn't have to turn the steering wheel. Heading down Craner curves into Old Hall Corner, I really was braking way too early. They've moved on so far, even in the few years since I've driven a Formula One car. Sweeping then uphill towards McLean's, and I could just plant the car where I wanted it and then with confidence ride the curbs on the outside. Coppice was catching my attention. It's a corner where you need really to have a great confidence in the car and a great knowledge of exactly where to turn in. Onto the back straight, it was just incredible acceleration. It was almost a shame to change gear. The engine sounded so gorgeous, but the shift lights were constantly coming on. You could brake so incredibly late and just hit the power hard on the way out.
Amazing. It's everything I expected and a lot more. What I've got to do now is find £1 million and buy this car. That's brilliant.
When he warmed up that Ferrari, Martin equalled the lap record around Donington. Class is permanent. His old mucker Murray has joined us briefly. You've commentated on all those cars. What a contrast.
I like that. Find £1 million.
I don't think so somehow, do you?
The whole team. The man is a star, Jim. He always was, and he will remain a star, because if you've got it, you don't lose it. what I found absolutely fascinating was watching him change his own gears, which Mr. Schumacher and the rest don't do anymore. I would love to see that come back, but you can't have road cars which are more technically advanced than Formula One cars.
You had your last call here, didn't you? Your last commentary this time last year. You've not been doing much in the meantime.
Jim, I have achieved my life's ambition. From the boss of bosses, Mr. Bernard Ecclestone, I have the red pass, and I'm using it to great effect here. Thoroughly, look at this.
Take you everywhere.
Enormous crowd.
Yeah, 170,000. It's fantastic.
If Formula One doesn't succeed here, it won't succeed anywhere in America. And I would honestly hope to see a mega crowd here in future.
You're on a world tour, aren't you, promoting your book?
Yeah.
You go to the David Letterman show, I think, in New York tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that with some trepidation. You're right, I've done the south of England, and I'm going from here all around New Zealand. I've never been to New Zealand in my life, and I'm really looking forward to that. Then I'm going all around Australia, then I'm going to Singapore, and then I'm doing the north half of England, and then I'm going to crash out and take a holiday.
Signing a lot of books along the way. A brief thought for you about the race. Who's going to triumph here this evening?
Say again?
Who is going to win the race, Murray?
I'd take a flyer at it and say Schumacher.
I thought you might. Listen, good luck with your tour.
Nice
Thanks
to
for
see you,
popping
Tim.
in. Okay. Let us go down to Louise. I think she's got... yes, she has indeed. Very cool and relaxed down there. It's Jenson Button.
Yeah, we're a little way down the grid. You've qualified 14th, Jenson, haven't you? Probably a little further back than you would have liked to be. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to be 14th, but, you know, we've always got a good car in the race, and launch control should work well, so hopefully we'll make him a few places.
Somebody said to me the other day, now that Jenson Button is leaving the team, are they giving him as much support as they're giving the other driver? What's the answer?
From what I know, yes, and I mean, I don't think they would do something like that.
So your hopes for the race today?
It'd be nice to get some points. I mean, more importantly, we need to get a good start and try and stay on the circuit. I think the first corner is going to be quite exciting, and then hopefully pick them off, because I think we've got a good strategy.
Fingers crossed. We'll see you later.
Cheers.
When you rejoin us, a glimpse into the lifestyle of Eddie Irvine and the benefits of a career in the fast lane. Eddie and Louise in Miami is next. We're counting down to the start of the United States Grand Prix at Indianapolis. Eddie Irvine's Jaguar started 14th and finished 5th last year. He starts 13th, hoping for an action replay this evening. Jaguar, though, still in the mood. Ford have confirmed their commitment, and Irvine's coming off his drive of the season, following the Ferraris home in Monza and relishing a rare podium. Louise Goodman visited Irvine in Miami and found a man at ease with himself.
You've got the boats here and the water here, but in all other respects, this is a long way from Newton Arts, where you grew up, isn't it?
Yeah, the main thing's the weather, you know. In winter, the weather gets a bit bad in Europe, and I'm a bit too used to the sunshine now, so it's difficult to hang around there when it's overcast and rainy.
What's life like living here in Miami?
It's just, well, I've got the boat, and I've got some friends here, and, you know, I just like cruising around in the car and going down, you know, going to the restaurants and going out water skiing on the boat or whatever, you know. And normally you've got people coming over from Europe for like a week or two from time to time.
Is home important to you, or are houses just bits of commercial property that you're going to turn over and make a profit on?
I enjoy houses. I love houses. And it's a good way of making money as well.
How many houses have you got all around the world?
There's over 40. I don't know exactly at the minute, to be honest, because I sold some and I bought some more, so I'm not actually 100% sure.
This is a fairly spectacular piece of kit.
This is a real work of art. It's a boat of Ceausescu, the Romanian dictator. They only had like 100 hours on it from new. It's like 1967. This is my new house coming up now. A year and a half in the building.
When's it going to be finished?
It's supposed to be 1 month, but I ain't taking bets on it. This is my bedroom over here, which actually it's a bit too big, to be honest. And then this is my...
You could have a party in here.
Exactly, it's a nice shape of room, you know, with the ceilings perfectly square.
Massive.
Yeah. Bed's going to be here, boom. No TV, no nothing.
Make your own entertainment.
Yeah, well, that's what was funny. The guy that's helped me, he says, "Oh, we need a TV in here." We telephoned it. I go, "No, there's nothing going in here. This is real basic, real simple." Pool, temple, the jacuzzi's in there, and we've got a ring of water coming out of the temple.
Yeah.
So that people can't see you in the jacuzzi.
I won't. Why is that?
Just in case, you know.
I wonder why.
Just in case.
That's going to be absolutely beautiful.
And there's a bed up in there as well.
A day bed?
Yeah. This roof, the engineering of this roof took a long, long time. Anyway, so we decided it was maybe a bit dark.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd put skylights, re-engineer the whole thing again. Just
Seriously?
That roof was a nightmare.
This is nice, what is it?
It's a 65 Mustang. They're really simple. Like, things go wrong with this, I fix it myself because it's such basic engineering.
Still get your hands dirty?
Oh yeah, I love fixing it.
Somewhat ironic having a house in San Marino Drive.
Yeah, San Marino Drive. That was destiny, I guess.
What does the future hold for you personally outside of racing?
Brightness.
I mean, do you imagine when you're 60 you're still going to be travelling the world to your various different homes, checking out the City Babes? And
For sure. I hope so. I seriously hope so.
Nobody's fool. Eddie Irvine, 40 houses and counting. His driving future stood undecided. That man, Eddie Jordan, might well want him in his team next season. So do Jaguar. I'm sure he will be with us sometime next season. Let's go to Martin now, shall we? High up on the grid next to Gasoline Alley. On you go, Martin.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Hello, everybody. Yes, indeed. In fact, I'm standing on the yard of bricks, the only remnants to remind us this used to be completely brick, this racetrack. And look at that view down there. Would that motivate you if you were sitting on the grid today? It's incredible, isn't it? Juan Montoya's fans, they're down thick on the start line area here. So many of them to support their man. But I think you're going to have to wait until quite a bit later into the race before they see him coming into the action, because he's going to be one stopping today. The big story is how much fuel is in these Ferraris, and will they be able to keep their rear tyres intact? Something I've never noticed so much before, how abrasive this racetrack is. And we think that's going to give the rear tyres quite a bit of stick. The Michelin tyres seem to be just a little bit harder and a little bit tougher around here. So will they too stop these Ferraris? Will they put them on different strategies? I want to try and get hold of Rubens Barrichello and ask him that. He's got Sir Jackie Stewart here giving him some pearls of wisdom before the start of the race. And I'll see if I can... Rubens, we gave you some good luck in Monza by talking to you on the grid, and you went to win. I've been a bit surprised that Michael's been labouring this weekend, you know, how now he's suddenly free to race, because I thought you won that fair and square.
Well, I mean, let's just have fun. I mean, it's of course the team is behind myself to finish. We know that if Michael wins the race, means that I conquer second in the championship. But more important, I go for the win today. I think it's that's what it's gonna put it really high.
Yeah, that would put the record straight. What have you got to do though? I mean, are you looking behind you? You seem fast enough. Have you just got to watch Michael, or are you keeping a bit of a cautious eye on the McLarens?
No, the McLarens have a good start. We were joking together. DC says he's going to brake at 110, so I will try to brake at 100 and see. I mean, this side is not as grippy as the other side. I've been cleaning this morning. Hopefully I'll have a good getaway.
So you're not feeling super relaxed about those cars behind, but it'd be great to see you get down there first and win this race, Rubens. Good luck. We're going to move on. This complete zoo down here. You just can't hardly move. I want to... Rubens alluded to the fact that he was sort of joking with David and saying, look, I'm going to pass you in the first corner. Lots and lots of that going on. And sorry, I think we've just bumped into somebody else's interview here. It was digital, well, nobody's watching that, so that's okay. DC, what are you going to do? Great qualifying performance, third on the grid. Rubens said he's keeping an eye on you, your old Formula 3 sparring partner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, obviously I'm hoping that clean side will give me a start advantage, and we'll try and sort it out in the braking.
Yeah, and so, you know, what do you think this afternoon? Presumably the Ferraris will put one car on a two-stopper and one on a one-stopper, do you think?
I don't know. I think they'll go for what they believe their quickest strategy is. I think that we're going to see Michael and Rubens racing because of the championship situation. So whatever their simulation tells them is the quickest.
Now, what's all this? I heard you saying something about lady drivers. What was that all about?
I was very most definitely misquoted in that, because I'm a big fan of lady drivers, and I think there should be more in Formula One personally.
Yeah, I think all the mechanics would be fighting over doing the seatbelts up, wouldn't they? Ron, can you win the race today?
Well, we hope to reflect all the efforts of Sam Torrance and his bunch. Great job winning the Ryder Cup. Good old all my mates over there, but yeah, I think we can do a good job.
Okay, good luck, Ron, and we have got to go back to Jim.
Thank you, Martin. So Rubens is going for the win. The Ferraris promising to go head to head. Will they protect the rear tyres? That's the message from down there. Can David Coulthard emulate Mika Hakkinen last year and pull one out of the bag for McLaren? Ron Dennis delighted with the triumph of the Ryder Cup back home, looking for a win double here. Montoya's massive fan club expects Ralf Schumacher, runner-up last time. He is very much in the frame. It is an absolutely beautiful day here at the Speedway. They'll hit 225 miles an hour down the longest flat-out stretch in Formula One. The gentlemen will be starting their engines when you rejoin us right here on ITV1 for the United States Grand Prix.